Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Got another Wellness Wednesday video for you today. I tromped off into the forest and found a quiet spot to chat with you guys. You'll probably hear the kids giggling. They're down on the grass with a blanket playing Uno, which always elicits so much giggling. Anyways, I wanted to give you guys an update on my fat cycling week 2. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my Wellness Wednesday from 2 weeks ago. I went into all of the details of what I am trying out and seeing if my body likes it. Basically, it's just eating a pretty solid amount of protein all the time, but on some days I lower the fat and some days I raise the fat, and it cycles calories, it cycles the amount of fat I'm eating, and it keeps my body guessing, keeps my metabolism guessing, and it's a way for me to help my body burn some excess body fat that it is resistant to wanting to burn, as well as keeping my metabolism guessing, so not allowing my metabolism to, regulate at some lower amount of calories. So anyways, I've been doing it for about 2 weeks now. And when I first started, after a couple of days, I noticed that I hadn't weighed myself in probably 3 months. Like, I was not weighing myself at all. When I did hop on the scale, I was like the same as I knew that I would be. I knew exactly, like, before I hopped on the scale, I was like, I bet I'm going to be 162. And I got on the scale and I was 162. So I had maintained my weight for quite a long time. I've been around this weight for about a year now. And so I started the fat cycling and I dropped a couple of pounds right away. And then it started bouncing around. And at the 1 week mark, I actually was 162.4. So 0.4 pounds higher than when I started. And of course, that can just be normal fluctuation because weight can just go up and down and it's not always like a linear progression. So I know that, but with my experience doing this fat cycling before, I saw weight drop a lot faster. And I was like, okay, so what's different about this time versus last time? And like I already mentioned, the biggest difference this time is that I'm not cutting out dairy at the same time. And so I was like, okay, I wonder what would happen if I cut out dairy, because I still was not sure with my experiment before if it was primarily the cutting out dairy or primarily the fat cycling or, a 50-50 combination of both. I was not sure. So I was curious to see if my body would react in the same way if I did the lean days without removing the dairy. And so after a week goes by and I'm like a half a pound heavier than when I started, I was like, okay, I just need to see what happens if I cut out dairy on the scale. And obviously the scale is not the end all be all. I know that there's all kinds of caveats there, but I just wanted to see what would happen with the scale if I cut out dairy. So day before yesterday, I did a lean day with no dairy. And I had been jumping around like between 160.2, I think, and 162.4 for the whole week. That's kind of where I had been jumping around. So I hadn't gotten back into the 150s. And I did my one lean day without dairy. And I woke up the next morning and I was 159.9 on the scale. And so I had dropped 2 pounds, I think more than 2 pounds overnight doing the no dairy lean day. And that should make me happy that I dropped over 2 pounds overnight, but I was not very happy. I mentioned this on the live stream with Lindsay yesterday. I was like, no, why? I don't want dairy to be bad for me. I honestly am so tired of narrowing my diet and cutting things out. Like my goal is to expand my diet as much as possible. So to have this happen is discouraging, not something that I want. But it is good information that I'm not going to ignore. Just because I don't want to limit my diet doesn't mean that I shouldn't limit my diet. So what I decided to do, there was a time where if I had something like this happen, my knee-jerk reaction would be just cut it out and say I'm never going to be able to eat that again. But I really try not to do that now unless I absolutely have to. Like something like wheat, I'm pretty certain I'm not going to eat on a regular basis again. I'm sure I'll get it accidentally every once in a while, but I am not intentionally eating wheat, and I'm fine saying that. But something like dairy, I have a real hard time being okay with saying I will never have dairy again. So this is what I decided to do. I am going to try to have dairy-free lean days. And then on my regular days, just have some dairy and be mindful of, how it makes me feel and of the amount. Just because I can have dairy doesn't mean I have to have all the dairy in all the meals. So I'm going to just be more mindful of how much I have and when, and then keep the lean days dairy free. So that is how I'm going to be tweaking my fat cycling for the next week or two, and I will keep you updated on how that goes. I did also want to talk real quick about carbs because over the last few months, if you guys have been following me, you know that I've been experimenting with different carbs and figuring out what I can tolerate both blood sugar wise and digestively, because I've done so much work on my gut. I found that I could handle so many more things, such a larger variety of food. And because I'm not married to the label of carnivore or keto, I'm like, well, let's figure out where the limits actually are, because so much has changed with my digestion as well as with like my satiety and with my cravings. I'm at a place where I feel like I could pretty much eat anything, carbs, junk included, and not have it be like a knee-jerk reaction to eat all of the things. Like it used to be that I felt like if I, had the first bite, I wouldn't be able to stop of, whatever it is. I don't feel that way anymore. And I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but big ones are my gut is healthier. My nutrient stores are more topped off and in a better place. So my body isn't like searching for nutrients that it's missing. I have more satiety than I used to. Also, eating enough protein has been a huge key for that. When I have enough protein, my cravings are way, way diminished, and my body feels more at peace, and like I don't need to like keep searching for more food. So because of all of those things, I feel like I could expand my diet in any number of ways, and that I, even to the point of not being keto or not keeping my carbs super, super low. And so I experimented with increasing my carbs up to around 100. And it was super fascinating testing things out and trying to find like what I could handle and what I couldn't. Like I could handle beans, I could handle carrots. I was doing some chickpea pasta, like all these different things that are not necessarily keto. And I found I did pretty well with them. The interesting thing that happened, though, is that I just stopped eating them. Like, as soon as I wasn't intentionally trying to test them out and intentionally adding them in, I just didn't eat them. Which for me, that was huge, because any other time that I've been low carb and added in carbs, they were a trigger, and it caused me to like only want carbs and eat all the carbs. And I'd, get into a cycle of eating too much of things that I knew weren't good for me. And then feeling like, oh my gosh, I have to go so strict. And it was like this huge pendulum swing. So the idea that I added carbs back in specifically, that I was able to do it in moderation. Oh my gosh, I actually might be a moderator, and then just forget to keep adding carbs in and just to like kind of settle back into my normal, which is pretty low carb without even thinking about it. That is so unheard of for me. And the way that, my appetite and my body has reacted for my whole life. So it was super encouraging because it really shows me that there have been some real and significant changes, both physically and digestively, as well as mentally, working through like body image stuff and all of that. So that was really, really encouraging. And what I decided was I don't really care enough to add carbs. I thought it was going to be like this. Bubs is right here. You can probably hear him. Bubba, come here. Come here. Come over here so everyone can see you. Can you say hi? No, guess not. I thought being able to add in carbs was going to just make me so happy and like make my diet so much more enjoyable. And in certain ways, it was more enjoyable, but not enough that I continued to put the effort in. I just kind of like just fell back into my regular low carb diet. And I'm happy. I'm happy eating the low carb. And I don't think that I'm getting any negatives from not including the carbs. And that's controversial. That's not something that everyone believes, especially when it comes to gut microbiome health. And I've kind of had to work through thinking about that. Because a lot of people will say the more diverse your plant intake, the better your gut microbiome is. And honestly, I'm at a place where I have no idea about that. And so there is something in the back of my mind that's like, would it be better if I were to increase my plant food variety and amount of plant food in my diet? And would that give me more health benefits long term? That's something I don't know. But what I do know is that I feel really, really good eating this low carb keto diet that I have kind of put together for myself. And I've decided not to worry about it. The other thing that I'll throw out here, which was another factor in my deciding not to continue to intentionally add carbs to my diet, and that is two things. And they could totally be coincidence and not related to adding carbs. But two things I noticed after I started adding carbs. First one was my toenail psoriasis got a little worse, and some spots popped up on some toenails that weren't really affected by it. And it felt like it was like going in the wrong direction. Keto and carnivore never healed my toenail psoriasis. It's something that I've had for so many years, and there's times it's been way, way worse. And right now it's manageable, but it's definitely not gone. And I felt like that adding the carbs, possibly at least the timing correlated with it getting a little bit worse. So that was a clue, like, if I had seen my toenail psoriasis getting better after I added in those few more carbs, maybe I would have been more encouraged to continue. But when I saw it going the other direction, I'm like, ugh, I don't know. I don't know if the farther I go into this adding carbs, the worse it's going to get. The other thing that I noticed, which was interesting, and again, it could totally just be a timing coincidence, but I noticed that, and this is just for the women, I noticed that my cycle got heavier. So back before I started, I did my 3-month carnivore experiment. When I first started carnivore, I was having extremely heavy cycles. And I think that was something that contributed to my iron issues. It wasn't the cause. I have some kind of an absorption issue, but having heavy cycles definitely doesn't help when you have an absorption issue. And when I added more protein to my diet, when I really increased my protein and I cut back on the carbs, I felt like my cycle regulated to normal, like what normal should be. And when I was adding more carbs, up to like 100 grams of carbs per day, I noticed my cycle getting heavier. And I am still dealing with iron issues. I have not got them all figured out yet. And so a heavier cycle is not the direction I want to go. Now, I know that things can regulate. And when you make changes, it can take your body a little while to regulate. So it's possible that if I just stayed on, 75 to 100 grams of carbs per day for longer, that my cycle would have regulated. But because of all the other things I've mentioned about not really caring so much about adding the carbs as well as the toenail psoriasis, I decided it wasn't worth it to test that out. So anyways, I am so happy that I have done all of the experimenting that I have done with carbs and finding out like which ones I can handle as far as blood sugar and as far as digestion, because I am the kind of person that will indulge every once in a while. I don't feel like I have to stay 100% strict anymore. I don't have those binge triggers when I just, take a bite of something sweet or something off plan. So it's really good to know, to have all that data of the carbs that I do really well with as far as blood sugar and digestion and the ones that I don't. I told you guys about the experience accidentally adding some wheat when I went out to dinner with my husband, and it spiked my blood sugar to like 170 something. And so I know for sure, I was pretty certain before that, but that like sealed the deal. Like, wheat is not my friend. But then if I want to have like a burrito bowl with some beans in it, like that is completely blood sugar friendly for me. Or if I want to have some roasted carrots or something like that, totally blood sugar friendly. So it has opened up the possibilities of things I can splurge on, but I found that I didn't really need to or find huge value in adding those things in to my everyday diet, if that makes sense. So anyways, I wanted to give that update on the carbs because I know a lot of you guys have been following my experimentation with carbs and have found it interesting. And I just kind of wanted to let you know where I've come to it, where I've come to on my mind about it, and why you're not seeing like beans in my, what I eat in a day videos and stuff anymore. Not that I'll never eat them, but I just decided it's not going to be part of my everyday diet. I'm going to stay closer to keto. I think my carbs have been ending up between 20 and 50. That's been kind of the range, but not as often at the 50 gram range. And that's total carbs. It's usually somewhere in between there. So anyways, that is an update on that. I will keep you updated also on the dairy-free lean days, let you know how my body responds to that. And I guess that's going to be it for this Wellness Wednesday. And I'll just see you again in the next one. Bubba, you want to come say bye? Come here, Bubba. Bubba, come. Come here, Bubba. Oh, are you a good boy? Come over here. Come over here. Say hi to everybody. Sit down. Sit down. Bubba, sit. They can't see you. They can't see you. Oh my goodness. Say hello right here. Look, what's that? It's over here. What's that? Say hello. He's like, I have no idea who I'm talking to. Are you a good boy? Are you such a good boy? Yeah, you are a good boy.